Hey guys, it's Eric here at Farpoint Restorations and Repairs. Thought I'd give you a review and a should I buy it video on this. This is the 2004 Volvo XC70. So Volvo made the P2 platform, which is what this is, from 2001 to 2007. You might find an 08 that is still considered an 07. In 08 they switched to the P3 platform. These included the C70, the C70 convertible, the S70 and the V70, and of course the V70 XC, or as they changed it in 04 to the XC70. That easy enough to remember? The important thing to remember here is that all of these vehicles came with an automatic transmission here in the United States, and they offered two engines, a 5-cylinder non-turbo and a 5-cylinder turbo. That's pretty much where the similarities end. The C70 being a two-door, the convertible being obviously a convertible. The S70 is the sedan, or the S60 is considered the sedan version, a four-door version of it. And the V70 is the wagon version with two-wheel drive only. There were a couple of S60 all-wheel drive sold, and those had a little bit lower clearance than the XC70. And you can tell an XC70 by the extra cladding. A regular V70 doesn't have all the plastic around it, or not as much anyway. So I've owned this particular car for 2 years. I bought it because it needed a motor, which is a little unusual. If these cars are maintained, they usually don't burn oil, and they usually don't just blow up. But if you allow the front seals to blow out, if you allow the flame trap box, or what we call here in America the PCV system, if we allow that to get clogged, which is very common on these cars, it will blow seals out and cause massive leaks. And then if a customer or the person owning it drives it to home or drives it to a shop, ignoring the oil light, you've scored the pistons, you've scored the bearings, and the engine is pretty well toast. In fact, we've done a lot where we've replaced all of this stuff to get it just right. But you'll notice the problem is when you're sitting at a light, the oil light will come on or flicker. That's an indication that even with a good pump and even with replaced oil pump O-rings, that this thing is not producing enough pressure to keep up with the amount of clearance that is in the bearings. Other things to look out for on these cars is transmission failures. That is why most of the 01s and 02s are long gone off the roads. I owned an 01. I've done a lot of videos on both the 01 and the 04, and the 01 blew two transmissions in 160,000 miles. This one is on its second transmission now, and of course on its second motor now. But I've got both those pretty well dialed in, at least for now. That being said, I'd be leery about buying one of these things with over 200,000 miles on it, unless you know that certain things have been done. The timing belt's been kept up with, the PCV system's been kept up with, and the transmission is not jerking or slipping or doing anything funny on the test drive you take with it. They're decent cars, but they're not great cars. They do have a lot of problem areas, and I'm gonna go through that. Some of y'all are gonna hate me for it, but it's the reality. Let me get the camera off the tripod, and I'm gonna give you a walk around and review of this vehicle, but I'm gonna be a little bit honest about it. This is not a car you should take lightly. And I worked at a Volvo dealership for like 18 years. They're not considered great cars by the guys working on them, that's for sure. Although the newer stuff is even worse, so maybe we're going back in time to the 740 and 240 series and the 940s. Those were excellent cars. Anyway, let's get the camera off. I'll give you a walk around and show you some of the pros and cons of owning a Volvo. All right, so first let's talk about the first negative, and this isn't a Volvo specific thing, but if you're gonna buy an XC70 or an all-wheel drive S60, make sure that all four tires are matching tread pattern and are of the same brand. We gotta have the same depth and same brand, because it will burn the transfer, well, it's not a transfer case on this, it's a rear coupler on this car that'll just get smoked and it'll kill it. Now, that's not Volvo's problem. That is actually all-wheel drive. They really struggle with having that kind of an issue. Some other things to look out for, and I'll pop the hood and show you how you can check for it. Struts on these things are a little bit of a weak point. You'll have strut bearing failure or strut mount failure. They live up top. You can grab a wrench or sometimes just your hand to check those. But they are a common failure point. In fact, I would consider them to be too common. Control arms are also, the bushings on the control arms are very weak spot on this car. Ball joints tend to last a good long time, but the control arms themselves, you can expect to get about 80,000, maybe even 60,000 out of them before they need to be replaced. And your aftermarket ones don't seem to last hardly at all, 20, 30,000 miles. I get a lot of comments from people asking about the wipers. Your car has wipers? Yeah, you know, here in America, this seems like a stupid idea, and it kind of is, but in Europe, they added those wipers in there, and anytime that you hit the sprayers, the wipers would activate. Later models had a piece that comes out and shoots water, or shoots a washer fluid up onto the glass of that, and I think that may be a better idea. Even better than that, maybe avoid all of that. Do you get customer complaints where those motors just bind up or die, or the wiper's stuck at an angle, and we usually just remove those because they're kind of useless. These models did come with fog lights. Now, another easy to fail point, you can see it here. The plastic with a lot of years on it starts to fade away and it breaks, and you'll get flopping noises there, which you can see this one has. There's ways to fix it. In fact, it's on my list of things to do to this car this summer, but I just wanted to show that as a part. Now, body-wise, I got to give credit where credit's due. They're very resistant to rust. And these cars are extremely good in accidents. You hit anything, it's a tank, you know, and it feels like a tank when you're driving it. It feels like a heavier car than it is, and that's a good thing. All right, coming around here, here's another failure point. You've seen this in my videos. Fuel doors, the hinge breaks. It's a plastic hinge. I don't know whose idea that was, but they went with it, and we get to pay for it. It's about $20 to do it yourself, and about $100 if you pay me to do it. So there's something for you. It does have a rear wiper, which is nice because it is a flat back, and so it does tend to collect garbage on the back there. Mine have added a hitch to it. I do some towing with this thing, although very light towing because I know these transmissions will get you. And this one also came with the add-on bars for the roof rack. So it comes with either nothing here, you can buy the racking, and then you can buy this separate. So there's 3 trim levels there. Mine also has a radio antenna on it. I'm kind of a fan of that stuff. All right, let me pause the camera. We'll pop the hood and I'll talk to you about some of the many problems this car will likely have if you decide to buy one. Okay, here is the engine, and I'm going to start over here. And I'm going to tell you that, again, you can check these. These are their strut mounts and bearings, right? These should not turn. And if they're sticking up, one side sticking up more than the other, well, there you go. You got yourself a problem. Another failure point, the hose that goes from this, sometimes the seam right here on the power steering pump reservoir, or the hose that goes down and around to the pump, or in this case, this one has also had a pump failure. Power steering, thankfully, on the upper end is where your issues are going to be. Pumps, return hoses, and the reservoir. You'll get lots of leaks there. The bad news there is, if you get leaks, your drive belt is right down there below it. It'll cause that rubber to swell because it can't handle that, and it will fail and throw the belt. A lot of times, because this is just a plastic cover, that drive belt gets thrown, it gets sucked up underneath, gets into the teeth of the timing belt. Goodbye engine. Time for rebuilding a head, which is really just not worth it on a car of this vintage. Okay, you can't really see it, but right here, right down there, is the PCV flame trap box. And there's a couple other components. There's some hoses that come up here. There's the hose that you see right here that goes up to the top. It's called a breather tube. And there's another hose that comes out and it connects right around, I think it's this one right here. And so these will get plugged up. There's where the box goes into the block down at the bottom. It just collects carbon and gunk and stuff, and it doesn't ever get clear. It plugs up, and when it does, you get engine pressure building up. That's going to cause these front seals to go out, or a cam seal to go out in the back, or if you're really unlucky, rear main seal will also start leaking. That is going to be an expensive repair because that is about $750 for me to do. And if I got to pull the variable valve timing cams gears off, you need special tools to do the job, and it's going to cost you, I'd say for the whole job, about $1,800. If you're just going to do your engine, that's $1,200, and that's $750. We'll give you a little bit of a discount if you double up on it because there is some overlap. Now, there's a leakage problem with these things, and it's caused, a lot of times you'll pull that off and see that there's damage to, or oil all caught in the valleys there. It could just be that rubber right there. That's an oil cap gasket, and they need to be replaced. This one's been done. If they're really stiff, if they don't fold easily, you got problems. Go ahead and replace that, and it'll keep oil from going into the timing belt area and then dripping down, or dripping down this way, giving you the impression that you have a bigger problem. And I've seen that happen before too. In fact, I've seen a car towed from another shop that they thought had a bad cam gear and a cam seal, and it turned out somebody had removed that gasket, and so oil was just pouring in there, making a god-awful mess. Also, these hoses will break right there and push oil from there as well. Turbos on these cars are actually pretty stout. You got to really abuse them to get any kind of problems out of those. Most of them will last the lifetime of the car and last a lot longer than the engine or transmission will. These top mount here, as well as the one over here, are also common failure points. Very inexpensive to replace that. Maybe a half hour and some tools, you can do that at home. That one down there, a jack, and again, maybe 45 minutes, you can take that one off and replace it. That one fails because oil drips onto it. The rubber collapses and swells and fails. That one fails because of age and because of abuse. So there it is. One thing that the P2 platform has over the original 850 and S and V70s was that it has no real huge evaporator AC issues. There's an evaporator on the 850s and S70s here that is a common failure point and required a dash be removed, and it's a real pain. This one does, however, suffer from the clutch having an overheat and fail problem. Most of the time, if you're going to take that to a shop, you're going to end up having the whole AC compressor replaced. But I made a video on how to do it, where you just take off the front of the magnetic clutch, remove a shim, and put it back together, and that cures the problem. The symptom for that is driving on a hot day and the AC goes away, and then after 10 minutes it starts blowing cold again. That is the compressor clutch no longer able to hold the plate in. It gives up, it overheats and gives up. And then when it cools off, it starts to close again and the compressor starts working again. An expensive fix. You have to take off a lot of parts. You got to take off the fan shroud, power steering pump, alternator, all that has to come up and out in order to access the AC. And of course you have to discharge the AC system and then recharge it after you're done. So that can be time consuming and expensive. I can't remember what we charged for that last time I did one, but it's near $1,000. Okay, if you're still with me, let's get inside and I'll show you some of the other problems that you're gonna run into with a Volvo like this. All right, first thing that happens here is we do have a lot of problems with these failing, and it breaks and you need the whole door card replaced, or the door card itself just separates and starts to flop around. A lot of times, I mean, I think it was like $500 for one of these door cards, so it's absolutely a waste. But a lot of times we'll just take them apart and get some clamps and some heavy stuff and glue the you-know-what out of it. There's also some mods you can do to get the door working again, but it's a little less effective. That right there is another failure point. It's kind of a Volvo, like, why would you do that to us, Volvo? Any of these switches go, any of those switches go, you need to have the module replaced. You know, take the whole master switch apart and replace it. Problem is, that is a programmable part. You can't just buy one off the shelf and put it in. It has to have software downloaded to it to marry it to the car. That adds a lot of expense, and it's something that most shops just can't or don't want to do. Okay, inside, bulb failures are quite common with the dash, but not actually, not terribly. Usually you'll lose this where your little info screen is. That'll go away on you, or you'll have just a part of the dash go dim. Most people choose to live with that, honestly. This stuff all seems to work pretty well. I haven't had any problems with that. We do see occasional failures with this. Your fog lights, there's a relay built kind of into this mess. It's, again, electrical components that has all this stuff in it. And one of these buttons may fail, or the switch may fail. For the most part, though, people leave it on because it does shut off automatically. Center console, you're going to set codes anytime you replace the factory radio. There are so many computers in this car, for one, as old as it is, but there's the climate control module, the audio control module, the upper control module, the UEM is what that's called. There's an alarm that's situated in the fender well on that tire over there that goes bad as well. And there's a lot of these cars are suffering from communication issues. I've seen cars like these Volvos here. I've seen some that end up in the junkyard that are in great condition just because the techs can't figure out what is causing the network to fail on them. So that's something to be aware of. Climate control units here, yes, you have bulbs that go out. I've made a video on how to replace those bulbs so you can see your whole setup again. This one has set a code. There's a fan here for the auto temperature, and the fan is not working properly, or if it is, it's not getting a signal properly, so it keeps setting a code for that. You can see here I do have an aftermarket radio, and I also added a CB radio to this car. Totally fine. You're going to set some codes, but it's not going to set a check engine light or anything. It's just going to set some codes, so when a tech pulls codes, it may confuse them and think that there's more problems than there are. Shifter, there's a problem with shift gate. This one failed. I just made a repair video on it. I don't know if I've posted it yet, but shifter will flop around, and when it flops over into manual, you'll get stuck in whatever gear you're in, and if you're not paying attention, you got the music on, or if you don't know much about cars, you can really damage your car just with a piece of plastic that cracks for 2 or 3 cents. Glove boxes on these are okay. The old S70s and 850s had some glove box issues, but they're pretty decent on these. Not a lot of issues with condensation blockage, where your AC evaporator starts flooding your floors. You see it occasionally, but it's not a common failure point. What you do see a lot on Volvos in general is crummy leather. Leather that just fails, it gets brittle, it shreds. These are splitting on the seams on both sides, but you'll see a variety. The tan ones just tend to turn into sawdust. That's pretty bad. Okay, the rear view mirror is another point where it's like, why'd you do this to us, Volvo? Auto dimming. And you'll see if you get into one to test drive and you see like it looks like there's water in it and it has failed, that is like $600 plus programming. So a lot of people just like strap on a regular old-fashioned mirror and call it a day because it can be a real pain. While I'm up here, sunroofs, I can't really show you it, but there's a sunroof. There are some issues with the tracks on these. There's plastic in there and they'll break. That being said, it's not as bad as some of the other ones I've come across, that's for sure. Okay, let's see here. I'm going to go ahead to the back and we'll open it up. I'll show you some of the cool parts about owning a Volvo, especially the station. All right, for me, the best part about owning one of these is the amount of space you have in it. And this kind of cracks people up and they're like, why not buy an SUV? Station wagon does everything an SUV does, but does it better. If you fold those seats flat, you create a 6 foot, I think it's 6'3" area, and it's perfectly flat. So I sleep back here. I take this thing camping all the time. You can in fact see I got a refrigerator in here right now because we just got back from a trip and I haven't taken it out of the car yet. But the seats fold forward. If you want even more space, you can remove the seat backs, the seat bottoms, and that gives you about 8 or 9 inches of space that you can put stuff in front where the driver's seat and passenger seat end, and these parts sit down. So oftentimes I have set up nice foam padding and a couple of sleeping bags, and my wife and I will camp out in this thing while traveling. That is a really cool part of this, and one that I think if you're looking at this versus maybe like a Honda CR-V or a RAV4 from the same vintage, those are going to have much smaller areas with the seat down, and their seat is going to be jerked upwards. Like it's not going to be a flat surface, so a lot less space in those. I really do like that. There is a rear electronic module back here. Doesn't give a ton of problems, but I have had some issues. Okay, so let's wrap this video up with just a couple of miscellaneous things. The all-wheel drive system on these cars are prone to failure, and what they'll do is you won't even know you have an issue. There is a splined coupler that goes between the transmission and the transfer case. It fails. You don't realize it's failed until you get into the snow and the rear wheels aren't turning. That sucks. There's a viscous coupler on this particular model, although, wait, no, that was on the 2000. On this model, there's an electric actuated coupler. But those can give some issues, not as much as the older viscous coupler style that were in the 98 to 02, I think it was. But so that's something to be aware of. The last thing that sucks about this car is fuel mileage for what it is. 5-cylinder turbocharged, I would expect 24 to 28 out of it. I'm lucky to get 19 to 21 out of this. And the 2001 model that I had would never break 17 miles to the gallon. That's full-size truck mileage if you ask me. So not a huge fan of the mileage on these cars. That said, my wife has always asked me, why do you keep buying them? Like when one blows up, why do I go find another junker? This is my winter beater cars, and because I worked on these things for so many years and I know the problems, I know what I'm getting into when I buy one. And I guess that's the point of this video, is a review, but also kind of a, hey, heads up. This is what you're getting into. Here are all the problem points. So if you want to go look at one of these things, if you're interested in buying one of these things, look closely. I mean, there's easy ways to tell if a transmission's been replaced. It won't be as ugly. Like this one's been in here a good long time, so it matches the disgust and dirt, right? But if I pop that and it's been painted silver, or it's a whole lot cleaner than the engine is, well, that's a good indication that it's already had a transmission. This one's was done, I think, at 80,000, and now it's close to 200. So hanging in there. It's got 196 on it right now, I believe. Anyway, I guess that'll do it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you have questions about Volvo, I have a whole series on Volvo repairs. Anytime any of the Volvos I have or friends have need issues, I try to film that and document the procedures so that you can do it yourself and save a ton of money. Till next time, my friends, take care.